Hey everybody, this is Podcast Me. Podcast for we, podcast for us, as well as a podcast for you fucks. I'm your host K-Dog, as well as my co-host here, Ever, and we're both co-hosts. There's no real main host. So it's February 23rd. Get a topic out. How goes life for you in the fast?
Life goes. February's almost over. Fast month, fast paycheck. So it's going good.
Yeah.
I like your background.
Yeah. Went full for Doctor Strange. All right, let's get into some shit. I was like talking so I can get that whatchamacallit, the full screen on my end so I can see what the fuck I'm doing. All right.
So it's not that you really want to know how my day was or anything, right, honey?
No. All right, let's get to it. I wanted to talk about the Gina thing that we had in the text thread.
Okay, but disclaimer: I have not watched the Ben Shapiro interview.
You don't need to.
I
mean,
you
get the gist.
That guy, so I don't really know. I did look it up, and it was like an hour and 3 minutes, and I was like, I ain't got time for that. Looking at my season pass.
Believe it or not, that isn't the Ben Shapiro show. The Ben Shapiro show is really 2 hours. But he does these Sunday segments where, like, either I think some are free or some on his Patreon, and then he goes on an hour depth conversation. Usually, like for those particular ones, they're more I don't know how, it's not higher. I guess it's higher content if you think about it. It's more like the stars, because he interviews other people randomly, but then there's like the up there people, like Neil deGrasse Tyson and shit like that. If you were to interview Trump, that would be the one. He'd do it in there. But then he does a show, and normally or I think he's done a thing where maybe that's just it. That's where he does the interviews, because usually he talks like a real fast, real monotone voice, and he just spits out the facts. He's a real intelligent guy, just so happens to be a little on the racist side, not because he is racist. It's just because he is counter to what you would have on the left, so that by proxy makes him racist, right? Because if you have a progressiveness, right, and he is self-proclaimed Republican, and he pushes that direction really hard. I mean, it just so happens if you're pushing one side and talking freedom of this left, right.
Republicans have it hard right now because, and we talked a little bit about this last time, there are some progressive views that they want to support, but they're kind of shoehorned into this set of ideals, right?
Yeah,
and I think that's what the Republican Party is really fractured right now.
It's a hard,
stupid to be able to capitalize on it, but
yeah, it's a hard move when you have people on the left kind of unified, going in a progressive direction, right? And not necessarily bad or good. It's just that's what's happening, right? So obviously the counter to that is just gonna sound racist, because it's not. It's weird, right? Because it's not really racist. Like, I don't see Ben Shapiro killing like black people left and right, but it just so happens that you got people on the left pushing.
It was like the attacks on The Last Jedi. If you didn't like The Last Jedi, it's because you didn't want to see strong female characters, or you didn't want to see diversity in film.
Yeah,
and that wasn't it.
He's between a rock and a hard place, because he kind of made his bed. Like, I watched this guy for a while, and at one point or other, he was kind of like center, even though he would be self-proclaimed Republican, but he would be kind of center because he had real poignant ideas. He still does but you could kind of see the cracks in the I need to stay on my side, just like the left. You have to really I have to do this, all these little marks that you can see people not really pushing, but they have to, because that's their side. Right. Him too. And it just so happens it's the counter to a progressive stop, which so happens to be where, and then you get caught up saying I'm not racist a lot. Right. So it's a weird thing, right? We're trained at an early age. If you hear a person say, I'm not this, I'm not this, I'm not this.
Well, I think that's the problem with what we talked about last time too, was when people get siloed by identifying with one party or another, they kind of get siloed into a set of ideals. Well, if you're a Democrat, then you're automatically all these things. And if you're a Republican, you're automatically all these things. That kind of sucks that you need to to qualify your statements by saying, you know, well, I'm not a racist, but because that's always a hard place to start with.
Yeah, because the moment you start saying that, it's in my head.
The next thing that's going to come out of your mouth is racist, right?
Yeah, because like say I don't know anything, right? I'm not left, I'm not right, and I listen to you say, so hi, my name is Kevin. Hi, I'm Bob. I'm not a racist, and I'm like,
what?
Like now it's in my head though. Like you've prerequisited this conversation, and I wasn't thinking that to begin with. I'm like, I don't know you, Bob, but I don't know why you would say that. You kind of made it weird. And then anything you say, I'm thinking I'm looking for an angle on how you are racist or and.
So you've dipped into this, I think, a little bit more than I have. Then, so Gina Carano, where would you put her on the spectrum? You know.
Yeah, it sucks because okay, so she is a fighter, right? So there's not much going on there. I hate to tell you that. I mean, like there's a lot of poignant fighters, but I mean, she's not the one. But I like her nonetheless.
I don't think I wouldn't define her by what she does. You know, I'd define her by what she says. I would put aside the fact that she's a fighter or an actor, and kind of just focus on what she's putting out there.
I mean, CTE is a thing, and fighting is a real thing. It's not like, and like fighters usually, they're not on the side of righteousness. And most times when you're a fighter, as I'm tiptoeing around stuff, but like, I mean, you're not like the best and articulate person ever. I mean, you can be, but I mean, statistically, it's not that. So, I mean, it is a requisite. Like, okay, for instance, like a prisoner could be the smartest person on earth, but I mean, like, say they got 23 rapes, you're really not.
Exceptions to the rules. I get you. I get where you're coming from. I'm
not saying like she's dumb or anything, but like, so she's just a fighter, and so like naturally her proclivity to, if you say you're this, you're gonna fight back, no matter whether it's physical or mental. And so like here she's put in a position where Disney is, because of its nefarious ways, has to be woke hard. So that's the business line. And so for that being said, Disney has to push hard. And if you're not about it, vice versa too. Like if slavery was the topic of the day, if slavery was like, let's all be having slaves, Disney would be 100% on top of things. But it just so happens we live in a woke world, so you better get with it. So Disney pushing it on her, like, you best do this, he, him, she, her, you better identify. She will then fight against it.
I don't think Disney's working from a standpoint of they're trying to do good. I think they're trying to stay out of negative headlines.
Of course, but like,
I mean, they've never been viewed as progressive.
They're very progressive. Like, have you seen their movies?
They've always pushed. So hang on. So they've always really pushed these conservative ideals about, you know, womanhood and control over women and all that stuff, right? You got to just look at their tales and their allegories and all that, blah blah blah.
Oh, in the past,
the recent wokeness coming from Disney it doesn't feel genuine, because if it was genuine, it'd be thought out. If it was, it's not genuine. It's a reflex to you know, support their bottom line. But
I agree.
In response, they put Kathleen Kennedy at the head of all this stuff, and it really does look like she was behind the one, you know, pushing to fire Gina Carano.
True that, but that's not even my point. My point is, Disney's behind whatever the fuck. So, for instance, if they said, hey, you got to be down for slavery, guess what she would have done? She would have fought against it. If they would have said, hey, you got to wear a yellow suit, guess what she's going to do? She's going to fight against it. So they like to push things prevalently, right? So naturally, she's going to, in response, fight against it. Here's the thing. So with the liberal side of things and media and everything like that, you say something, she goes against it, it goes right. I don't even think really she understood. Like, I'm pretty confident if you were to ask her political leanings and things like that, if you really got down to brass tacks, she wouldn't really have much to say. She's just repeating shit that she's resonating with. Like, you got the Republican side, the conservative side. They're kind of more like, there's this baby step towards a alt-right kind of thing, where it's like, hey, we're being persecuted and you're white and this and that, and hey, there's something like happening with the media and it's pushing us this way. And then there's these people that are disenfranchised, right? And they're like, they're going to go towards that direction, right? Because that's the only place where they'll be accepted, right? And it just keeps going further. You just keep going, opening doors towards, and you notice that I keep going right. So like, so I mean, like that's what's going to happen. You keep going that direction. Now, if the left was more accepting, as they preach that they are, but they're not. They're just an extension of the right. It's just that they're just opposing forces, right? They're like, no, I don't like you. Cancel. So you're gonna go this direction. So she's opening more doors and getting further into it. And now she's talking to Ben Shapiro, who's like king alt-right. But he's not. But all intents and purposes, he is. Right? When you're watching the media and everything like that, they'll say alt-right host says this and that, and it's just like he's not alt-right, but I mean, if you have to put a pin in it, I mean, go for it. You know,
categorize them.
I mean, just go for it if you want to. Even though I don't think it's more nuanced than that.
She's a Republican. Based
but is
on
she?
What I've seen, it feels.
But is she?
I think so.
No. Like there's people that are Democrats, but are they? You know what I mean? Like they say they are, but they're not really. They're just saying a set of ideologies that they think is close to what they are, but really they're not. And I think I'm pretty confident if you were to ask her questions, she would just recite talking points. You know what I mean? Like things she heard of, like that.
And that's why that comparison that she made or whatever,
is a talking point.
Talking about it's almost like she just learned about it. Like she only recently learned about it and wanted to show off that she had learned something and applied it to something that she was seeing now, which was this disagreement and this hostility between left and right. And in trying to bring down the temperature, she just really used a really bad example.
Well, I think that besides that, I think that I found a thing, and I figured it out. This Nazi conundrum here. If you compare somebody to the opposer, say Hitler, you're a Nazi, you're okay. But if you compare yourself to the victim, you're not okay. So in any respect, right or left, if I call you a Nazi, right or left, it's not going to be too bad. But true. If I call you a Jew, wow, that's amazing. I just came up with that. If you do that, right or left, you're gonna be hurt for that one.
That's a good observation. I mean, I'd have to look more at examples of it, but I mean, at first glance, I think that's pretty valid.
Think about Seinfeld. They called that guy the soup Nazi, and to this day, you could still say that and get away with it. And like you could say, "Oh, they're working me like a Nazi," but and you could feel it in your core if you would have said they're working me like a Jew,
or they're working me like a slave right away.
It was like you're going towards that, but if you even specify, Nazi is like a thing you can just get away with, though. You're working me like a Nazi. You're a Nazi. This Nazi. You're good. You use the word Jew in any of these sentences. Don't you feel that heat? As opposed to a slave, you could kind of, they're slave drivers. I'll see that's the opposer.
But even then, slave driver, you're
right.
Right. That would be the Nazi in this.
Yeah, you're right. So I think this.
No, you're right.
I think that's a thing. If you could call someone the not opposer, but the abuser.
Well, it's because what you're the problem when people kind of compare their plight to another victim's plight, a lot of times it's relative, right? Or you're trying to use somebody else's pain to justify your own view. And I think that's what the real anger from that kind of recoil comes from.
I think in general.
Don't use somebody else's pain and suffering to justify your own point of view or the fact that, that you're getting backlash over this thing. And that, I mean, she didn't have to make that comparison. She could have just said, hey, you know what? Let's try talking. Let's try conversations. Let's not do personal attacks, because that can lead to worse things further down the road.
See, that's a talking point that she can never achieve, because that would be an original thought.
Well, that's what she tried to say, though. No, I think that's what she was trying to say.
Yeah, I know, but she can't. In fact, I would. There's no way to bet this. If we could go to another debate, it'd be tight. But I bet money if she would have said, people who treat me like this are like Nazis or whatever. You know what I mean? Like you go for the opposing point, the opposer, or the what is it? The persecutor, not a persecutor. What is a Nazi and what is a Jew in this respect? What is it? The Jew is the oppressed.
Yeah.
Okay, you can only compare people to the oppressor. So if she would have said something to the effect of like, yeah, you guys are treating me like Nazis all because I say something, you guys attack me. And I think that she could get away with that because countless times I've heard people call each other Nazis, and it's not, you don't feel that disdain.
And
like
people might have gone after her and said, well, if these people are the Nazis, who are you? Are you the Jewish people? Do you really feel that oppressed? But it would have been harder. She would have been able to
it would have been a harder
judo
connection.
out of it, you know? Yeah.
It would have been a harder connection. Yeah. That's crazy. I never thought of that. But like besides that, I'm just saying like, okay, so we canceled her, right? And so now she goes to Ben Shapiro. Now, what the fuck ever on the actual interview, you don't need to watch that. Just know that she's opening more doors and getting further that way because the only people that will have her are the Republicans. So like they open the doors. And so Ben Shapiro, and this is getting weirder too. So he's like, he talks, and he's a Jew, by the way, just saying. He's called a Nazi. That's the fun part of it, you know? But because he's Jewish and he says these things and he's very articulate too, like he'll break you down. Like he's a lawyer, I think. And then like, so he could break down arguments and so everything he says is pretty logical for the most part, but there's this cognitive dissonance where it doesn't matter if you're right or wrong, or even if your logic is sound. If I believe a thing, it's the end. I will only pick things that will make me right, even if it's sound.
There's also people that are so smart that they can make something wrong sound right.
That's true, but if the truth is the truth, right? I mean, like, you know, you can try to make killing black people, like you could try to make that a logic.
No. Well, there's obviously a limit, right? But something subjective, you know,
that's true.
Or if you're arguing with somebody that isn't as armed as you know, you
exactly. But that's the cool thing about talking though, because if you have a good argument, then you're good. But if you're like I said, like there's a lot of people that are just detached in a way where they're not prepared to talk. They just want to shout you out. Mm-hmm. And so that makes him look good. Problem is, it doesn't matter. He's on the wrong side. It doesn't matter how good you are. Now there's a scary thing about that, and I'm straying off from my main goal, but there's something scary about that because if you have someone who is sound and making sense, and you have the other side is not making sense, but is right, it's only a matter of time before that person who's sound and making sense becomes more the woven fabric. You know, because as each generation gets more rebellious to the last, it will then whip back that way. So it's a terrifying thing. What's the opposite of progressive? Honestly, if we're trying to fight for equality, what would be the opposite? And you don't want that.
This is what's going. You know, with I think this goes with what you're saying. It's people become radicalized in a direction. And like you said, because they only find support in that direction. In her case, she needs to make a living at her, you know, I'm sure she's made enough money to where me, you know, like if she was living like me and you, she'd be able to live out the rest of her life without having to work, right? But at her standard of living that she's established for herself, if she wants to keep that up, then she kind of needs to keep it coming, right?
Yeah.
I would compare what she's going through to like what somebody on the street goes through when they join like a gang or something. You know, if they
I was there. I was gonna get there, but you beat me to it. I fucking hate it.
Well, it's apt, you know.
But that's what I was getting at.
Yeah, so somebody that only finds comfort or support in that area, you know, and gangs are really good at this. You know, they celebrate your accomplishments, they support you, they'll help you, they'll back you up. It's a really effective support structure, obviously, to do bad shit. But
it's inadvertent. More and more. I think it's inadvertent. I think a gang structure, anytime you do this thing where you cancel and you push a group of people in a direction, it's inadvertent that they glop together and become more radicalized of what they were. You know what I mean? Like think of a club, and then that's good, right? But then think of a radicalized club. You call that a gang.
Yeah, the Nazis kind of started out as like a like a group to just kind of talk and criticize the government and the decisions they were making. And then eventually they got radicalized into a group that thought they could, start a rebellion. They got shot to pieces. Hitler gets thrown in jail. And then when he comes out, there's actually more of those same people, because that's kind of where the wind was blowing. We've seen this a lot. Smaller groups glob together, become radicalized in some idea, and then it becomes bigger.
Yeah, and I think that, so Gina is on this path, and she's my hero of this story that I'm trying to go towards.
Okay.
Is she? So she said some shit, and without actually putting thought to it. Like, if you would have just went Nazi versus Jew, you would have been set. And so now she's opening doors that she normally wouldn't have gone, because this other side is like locked off. So now, like a gang, they're already talking about putting her in movies. Now, this is a thing that didn't happen before. Now, Ben Shapiro's always been talking. He's been a podcaster, but they're realizing that they could create their own content. And this is terrifying, because in one hand, it'd be cool if they could just make their own thing, but they're going to make content that kind of generally will be propaganda from their side. And you can't blame them, because it's like, where else are they going to see it? Because here we are being inundated with woke culture and stuff like that, and to an extreme, because we can't wait. We can't let things just kind of, go towards a progressive way of things. We have to push it hard, fucking fight for our rights, kill everybody, So that radicalizes this other side. And now they're talking about, so Ben Shapiro, like, for the first time, it's like, hey, yeah, we could put you in a movie. We're going to produce a movie, and you're going to be in it, and you're going to be the star. And I was just like, well, that's unprecedented. And I'm like, that wasn't a thing before, but now she has nowhere to go,
Yeah, she's going to do it.
She's going to do it. And then this is going to galvanize more of this group of people to create more content. And it's only a matter of time, because this whole woke crowd is becoming radicalized themselves and they're sniping themselves. So you're going to have people who weren't that bad. They weren't that hardcore Republican, but then now they have nowhere else to go. They're going to go this direction.
Well,
and if we have more content going that way,
I think they're creating a radicalized version of what they're trying to fight against.
Think about Parler. Now, that's what I wanted to get to, because YouTube, you got your Parler, right? And what's Parler is? It's a contra.
I mean, the Parler app's been restricted too.
It has, and that will only radicalize them, right? Because here you have Twitter, Facebook, and you're not allowed to say certain things. So people in juxtapose that, they were like, hey, let's create this thing. And of course, you've got your QAnon and all that. And so this Parler and QAnon is like flat Earth, this, that. Also, fucking, we hate black people. This and that.
There's a lot of that.
Let's storm the Capitol. That's there. And then, but that wasn't there before. Before, it was on Twitter and everything else. So it was diluted. All this other shit's there. But now you have a very concentrated version of that. So here I am, 19-year-old kid, boy, probably, white, maybe. I got nowhere else to go. The media's telling me I'm this, I'm that. I'm the fucking evil. I'm spawn of Satan. I'm going to go this way. And then you're going to go glop together with more radicalized people. Hey, do you know how to build a bomb? Do you know how to do this? Do you know how to do that? Hey, oh, wow, they're teaching me things. I'm growing. I have a community. We're friends. We get together sometimes. And this is a thing that didn't exist. This is only because the left and inadvertently just kept like censoring and blocking them off. And
it's always existed. I just feel like the left is pushing them further now. The problem with cancel culture is that it's so strong. It's almost like you can't make a mistake, an honest mistake. And like in Gina Carano's case, it really should have been an opportunity to say, hey, let's have this conversation here. We don't think it's right that but not fire her, because then people that are already far in that direction, they just take that and use that as ammunition to support their side. If you're willing to stop and have a conversation, and really discuss, hey, okay, so why did you decide to use this? Was there a better example that you could have used instead?
I do think that if you were to conversate with her, had come from that direction, maybe you would have accomplished something. But now you're going to push her towards this direction. And my main goal was to
the
create.
point wouldn't be to change your mind. The point would not be to change your
No,
mind.
I know.
wouldn't want to change her. Yeah, I wouldn't want to change her to a Democrat or anything like that. But it would be like, hey, you know what? Let's figure out a better way to express ourselves to where we're not alienating one side or triggering one side or another. Where we're having a real conversation in the middle.
Yeah.
Sorry,
so my main goal was to get it to this. So so you have like 350 million people, and 1% of that are idiots, right? That's
on
a lot
either
of
side.
people. Just idiots. Let's just say idiots. 1%. And that's not right. It's probably more than that. But 1%. And 1% of that is a lot of people, right? And you have that spread, right? Now they're spread across. So they can't really do any harm. They're diluted, you would say. Now we can conjugate them through the internet and things like that. So Facebook is that landscape. And in that landscape, Facebook, Twitter, all this social media on the left is a huge landscape. And you only have like maybe a few of these idiots. And they're not really connecting as much as they can. But now you have Parler, which is like, so here I am, one of those many idiots, and I see one avenue, Facebook, I can't go on because everyone's against me and they kick me out. But I have Parler. And on that Parler, I'm more conjugated with my fellow. Before I would have to look and find, and I'm just not finding the people. Maybe I found Jesus instead. But now I don't have Jesus. Instead, now on the social media, I found Parler. And now I'm just using Parler as a thing right now. It could be anything. Say altright.com. I don't know. Whatever the fuck. And these people, because you censor them, will radicalize and create more groups of this. And it'll be easy for these fucking guys that are just disenfranchised, right? The people that have no home, they'll be able to find their gang online. And this gang will then, because of the internet and the way it is, you're just going to create a stronger force. And it's only a matter of time before, if you have one radicalized group, it's going to shift over that direction. And it's terrifying because, like, what is the opposite of progressive? I mean, we don't want that, right? I mean, like, if you're talking about, hey, let's give everyone equal rights and let's an overabundance of that, so much that's going to stuff it down your throat. The opposite of that is not good. It's just going to turn into a bunch of Hitlers.
Well, I mean, we're seeing that. I think we're already seeing it. I mean, the attack on the Capitol was a manifestation of that far right element,
Yeah, those fucking idiots wouldn't have been able to get together if the internet hasn't done what it's done. It just cornered off sections of the internet, funneled them into QAnon,
and made it okay to explore those ideas.
Of course,
it was like sociopathic, like let me believe this little thing. Okay, let me believe this little thing. All of a sudden, I believe Anderson Cooper eats babies.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. You can explore an idea, no matter how dumb it is, by yourself. But when you're allowed to fester and explore that idea with other people exploring their stupidity, I mean, shit could go south. However, when you had a thing where they're all on the internet and they were just not grouped together, you were good. But now it made it easier. What's easier right now? You go on Facebook or you go QAnon? So you're that guy. Before, you just had Facebook. You had nowhere else to go. You're on Facebook. You had to find websites. You just couldn't figure it out. QAnon just funneled them in there. What is it? Parler funneled them in there. In fact, I think they're coming out with another one that's more right leaning. And I'm just like.
Now, the problem is a lot of people were kicked off of certain sites because of legitimate hate speech or disinformation, spreading of false information.
Of course.
And again, they go into survival mode because a lot of them were making money by saying that shit.
Yeah.
And so they have to open up other venues for people to come and listen. It's like a Ponzi scheme. It's like a pyramid scheme. It's like fucking Herbalife or Mary Kay.
But I don't think you shouldn't have separated them. Like, you shouldn't have kicked them off. You should have let them be there. And that's why I say, like, that's the beauty of the Constitution and everything it is like, you're not going to stop crazy people.
Not all speech is protected, though. So
that's kind of true and not.
No,
that's why you have a Supreme Court.
Well, I mean, what was decided was that private companies have a responsibility to monitor what they're putting out there. It's not a public square. So if you're a private entity and you're allowing these posts to go up, then you're endorsing it.
And I would have to say that would be a failing of the Constitution. You should allow, like, okay, so I made this comment earlier.
There's a difference in a public square and a private forum. So in a public square, you're not monetizing things for profit. A public square should be free. So there should be like a government run Twitter then, if that was the case, that would be wide open for anybody, not so that people can make money and not for ads, or you wouldn't see any of that shit in there. It wouldn't be monetized in any way.
That's the problem though, because
then the government would be running it.
Exactly. And the internet's cool. Social media is cool, is new. And social media is pretty new and Facebook's pretty new, but Facebook is the game in town. So what happens is when you start forcing Facebook to start policing Facebook itself, right? Because they don't want the government in there. You're going to create a group of people that are going to do their own thing. Now, before they were just relegated to because they didn't get radicalized until they had a QAnon and things like that. QAnon is only the tip of the iceberg. There's further websites that are getting created, little baby fires. And like, just like, you know how Saddam Hussein was kind of like keeping everyone in check. And then we killed him. And then like, boom, we're like, what the fuck is a Sunni? What the fuck is this? What is this? Why is there like 50? They all hate each other? But it turns out like you had the one bad guy in town. It seems like he kind of kept him in check. If you had the Facebook, keep tabs on these, right? Like say, hey, okay, we got tabs on this, this, and this. You don't want a group of QAnons and things like that. And like this never happened until it did. And now this is where we're at. And the more we keep pushing people that way, so the council culture is terrible. So you got,
I would agree.
It's going to eat itself. Like you had black people against lighter black people because lighter black people would have bigger roles in movies, which is a thing that was like, I've never even heard of that. And I was just like, this is a new, because so you're canceling each other. Soon you're just going to have Latin versus Latinx. That's the new thing, because you know how like in the Hispanic way of talking or the Spanish way of talking, you have to, hermano, hermana, I don't know. You know what I'm talking about. You have to separate boy and girl, but they're trying to like, I think this is an American thing where they're trying to make it so like it's gender neutral,
right?
And like you're trying to cancel a language, you know what I mean? Like this is just not a good thing. But so here you got a group of people, right, that weren't really right or left leaning, and you're going to start canceling them out. And guess who's accepting it? Who's accepting new candidates, new club members?
The people at the edges.
Yeah, the left hasn't taken you. Who's going to take you? The right. And these are a group of people who are very conservative and very, hey, you know what? If you attack a cop, maybe you should die. Like that. I don't think you want that to happen. So people who were let's say you got actors and actresses and journalists and all these people and the politicians that were here, and now you're just going to close them off and cancel them out. They're going to go this direction, and we're going to swing back into some dark ages. And that's my fear with this Gina Carano, when they started talking about how you should be in a movie. You know what? You can't be canceled. And she's like, yeah, I'll be there. And I'm like, this is new. This isn't good.
Yeah, I think we're going to see it's just going to get worse. I think January 6th was one of those flashpoints where we kind of got to realize, I mean, the left needs to realize, we're pushing these people all the way out there. And a lot of times these overreactions to things, because there's a competition between people on the left too, to see who could be the most, the most left or the most offended by stuff. And who can be the first one to call out, to cancel somebody. It almost feels like so that they're an influencer or something. We got to get past that. It's got to be a more moderate approach. Unfortunately, moderate approaches don't get clicks. So, it's hard to get attention when you're saying, hey, you know what, let's have a conversation with this person and see if, we can't talk about what she's trying to talk about without pissing everybody off. Let's see, what is she really trying to say?
Yeah, that would be nice, right? Trying to understand the other side, and that's a thing of trying to just that's like a technique. If you're trying to discuss somebody with a cognitive dissonance, where it's like they're detached from the ability to actually make rational points because they're so stuck where they're at, and you could be that and be highly intelligent, just but it just be separated from the point because you're just too busy trying to create why you're right rather than leading. It is the check would be to try to make your argument for me. So if I'm saying let's kill these people,
I think
you would
if we
then have
did,
to argue that.
if we had that discussion, we would actually end up talking, if we were talking to Gina Carano, we would end up talking about the real things that she's expressed opinions on, even if it was kind of snarky or snipey. It was, she criticized masks, she questions the election, and apparently she sees, far right people as victims, akin to, Jewish Holocaust victims.
Yeah.
So if we start to look at each of those things, and give her the benefit of the doubt that she's sincerely a good person, that she has these viewpoints, and then let's talk about it. Okay, so you're
I think
saying,
it's truly possible to have a shitty viewpoint and still be good.
yeah, oh yeah, that's why. I mean, that's why I don't just put Republicans in a shit category, right? I don't just automatically shut myself down. It's when I hear them kind of saying stuff that are talking points that have just been kind of spit out by somebody else. It's like, well, did you really read something that provided evidence of that, or is this something that you heard on, Rush Limbaugh or some
I
other?
do see that in a lot of people, even the most intelligent, they really are just talking, and both left and right, and
Yeah,
I see us do it all the time. Is we're discussing a point, and actually, we do come together eventually, but I'm just saying that there are times where we're just talking and we're trying to find a way to make our point right. And I don't know, it's just a thing that happens. Even if as I'm doing it, I'm like, I see what I'm doing here, but it's harder to get out of that rhythm because you figure for the greater good, right? Like I know that if I keep going, I'll eventually get there.
but we're not attacking each other as people. I'm not attacking your livelihood. I'm not questioning your
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
sincerity.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not
yeah.
I'm not questioning you as a human being and saying that, you don't have a right to your success
That's true.
because
That's
of
true.
this view that you have. And I see you as a brother. So,
Yeah.
I'm not even going to use similes, right?
We
We're
we
gonna be
don't we
brothers.
don't count in this conversation. We
But
don't.
but I think if people treated each other that way, and kind of just saw each other for their human side, because you're still the same person and I'm still the same person as if we'd never fucking met. If the path in my life had taken me to a place where I stayed in South Bay and I didn't come to National City, then we never would have met, but we'd still be the same people. So why can't we treat each other with that same, benefit of the doubt and engage in this conversation, you know?
It's tough because I think that though people, or at least me, I mean like you kind of meld together with people and you're
Mhm.
still who you are. You're the drop and both the puddle, like we're all kind of the same thing. But it gets to a point where you're just kind of like, this is the way you are and that's the way it is. I don't even want to bother, even me as maybe that's a human thing. I don't even want to bother trying to make that way of understanding you. This is too much. It's like a lot of, I'm only saying that because I'm here in Michigan, because there's a lot of people protesting. They're like, Black Lives Matter, and like you're a piece of shit for supporting them, and or some shit like don't support Coke because they're trying to be anti-white or something like that. And I'm like, we can't like Coke anymore. I mean, because they hate white people. What? And like
So
I don't want, I don't have the energy.
but okay, so boycotts are a thing that I would support, because in either direction, right? And that's only because if there's a point there, a legitimate point, then shoppers will decide, right? And the argument, the way it's supposed to happen, the arguments will be made, and then people will decide, is it really unfair for, people that are picking these grapes to not have, some type of retirement plan or minimum wage or any of those types of benefits that I get as a worker, to be treated like subhuman, in terms of their workers' rights? Or, is that okay? Or should I avoid this product, and vote with my wallet and try to persuade them to make these changes in their policies? So that's where the bus boycott, and the boycotts in the South had that effect as well. It was like, hey, you know what? Why are we segregating these buses? What makes a white person more tired than a black person? Or why should there be preferential seating on a bus? We're going to boycott. And guess what? They were the customers, the main customers. So the bus company had to change their position. So
okay, go ahead. Yeah.
So I think that I'm okay with boycotts, because I don't feel that companies are people. The big conglomerate. I don't think they should have a right to the same rights as people have. But I know that's still Supreme Court stuff. Blah 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 blah. So I'm okay with boycotts. It's the canceling. It's when you attack a specific person and their livelihood. Now, are there people that work in that company that might be affected if the company loses revenues? Yeah, but then the company is going to change whatever they're doing to react to their customer base. And guess what? People still rode the buses. People still came back and bought grapes afterwards. Those things tend to shake themselves out for the better.
I think that, okay, so my dad used to say something, and I'm pretty sure he got it from somewhere else because, him. And he said that we're always trying to prepare for the war of the last war. Whatever war we had, we always prepare for the last one, not for the next one or what's current.
Mm-hmm.
And boycotts, I hear you. And the examples that you pulled are legit, right? But it seems like we're boycotting nowadays for shit that is for ideologies that aren't like a thing.
But they're not real boycotts, though. The one boycott that is real right now, and I think it's legit, kind of like the old ones, were the people that were pulling their Disney Plus subscriptions, right?
Cancel
That's a real
Disney.
thing.
Yeah.
But really, the cancel culture is more like a vocal ass minority, just blasting this message out there until the people in power say, we don't want to hear it anymore. This is bad publicity, and this is a case where we don't want this publicity anymore. So we're going to go ahead and fire this person or create shows with this kind of content or whatever. That's not the same as a boycott. That's really more of like a pressure campaign. A boycott is a type of pressure campaign, but it's more of an economic, measure. But yeah, that thing, we're always fighting wars based on what we learned from the last war, not trying to think ahead or progress into the next mindset.
It's true.
No, it's true. That I've heard that a lot before too.
No, but because you're talking about whatever kind of. So let's break down what a boycott is: economic pressure, right? And then but it's more than that, though, isn't it? It's what a group of people have decided, and they've decided with their money. And that's why we have a good capitalistic country, right? And so there's more power to it. Okay, so now we have boycotts. Now, cancel Disney, whatever. Cancel Coke because they're anti-white or whatever. And it's like, okay, maybe I spoke wrong. Maybe it's the causes in which we fight for are just wrong. Not wrong. I mean, I mean, like, fuck, dude, it's a hard fucking thing, right? Because, okay, so like you're anti-abortion, right? And you put it in this fucking hard stance, right? You say, yeah, you're killing a baby. So from the other side's perspective, you have to argue past killing a baby and out of convenience. And that's a pretty straw man argument. And then vice versa, right? So what, I'm supposed to just raise this kid? I'm a slave to this parasite that I didn't want to give birth to.
I'm not allowed to make decisions about my own body.
Exactly. And so like now on this side, you have to argue against controlling a person. And so here you've got these catastrophic arguments right here that will create an endless waltz of argument, right? You want to kill babies, you want to control people, and you just, where do you go from there? And I just think that we've created a new thing, an unescapable battle. Because how the fuck do you argue against these two things? All you do is do what Sun Tzu always said: if you have a walled city, you evade. You don't want to attack it, you evade. And that's what we have. We have these walled cities, and we're evading it, right? We can't get past these fucking arguments because we created these walls that are like just undestroyable. They're just, so we have to come up with these other little arguments here and there. So this war of these opposing cities will be forever because we can never get past these walls,
right?
Because we're always evading each other.
Like,
so we're never actually having we're never actually having a conversation. We're not actually talking about, okay, let's talk about killing babies, or okay, let's talk about controlling you. And because one side won't relent, we will never get anywhere with this specific argument. And then we've done this with everything: gun control, right? You're like, so you're telling me Grandma Zuzu can't have a shotgun to defend herself? That's a pretty hard argument to fucking go against.
The problem right now is that politicians are beholden to the bases, and the bases have a really strong influence during the primaries. So in a primary, you have to be the most liberal candidate, the most conservative candidate, and that's why you get these radical people out on the edges running for national office, making it to the top. Mm-hmm. And so once they're there, they really can't have that conversation because they're trying to represent their side from over here, the other side's trying to represent their side from over here, and they're shouting at each other to pull each other to that direction or that direction. Because if they come towards the middle, the next election cycle, they're going to get primaried out of their seat by the people at the base that said, no, we elected a hardcore right or a hardcore left.
That's true.
And if you're not gonna be that hardcore, then guess what? We're gonna kick your ass out in the next primary. So I think the radical edges. Now, the only time that this really won out was when the Democrats kind of made a smart play. They said, you know what, we need to not be beholden to this radical edge, which could end up putting Bernie Sanders out there, who probably won't win the national election, and get somebody that's closer to the middle.
Yeah, they were strategizing.
They strategized. They were pragmatists. They weren't idealists.
But I don't know, man. But Biden seems pretty left. I mean, he seems far left. I mean, he has a transgender like surgeon general or something like that.
Yeah, and again, he's there, but not so far left to where they said, okay, so $50,000 off of people's student loans. He's like, I'm not gonna do that. He like point blank said, I'm not gonna do it. But I also don't think he'll veto it. So if it did pass in the House and Senate, I think he'd sign it, right? But he's not gonna do it on his own at the stroke of a pen.
As a president should, though, right? Because a president should just sign shit, right? Because he's supposed to enforce shit and sign shit, unless we're at war. But other than that, that's what the president does. And so it's kind of a weird thing when it becomes everyone's like, he should do this, he should do that. Other than guiding the country,
yes,
spiritually, I guess. But other than that, he when he says those words, it's not really, I should do my job. That's really what he's saying. I should do my job.
Yeah.
Because who is he to veto?
I'm going to act within my purview as
it's just an odd. It was just an odd thing to veto things, for the president. That power is specific for the sense of like, hey, let's have slaves, and then it just gets across. Wait, what? No, veto, even though it could be overturned. Right. But I mean, like, if he's galvanized because he's the leader, if he's got enough like support.
Right.
And it gets through and he vetoes it, that would be then, let's all think about it for a second because we just wasted all this fucking time. And then we have to overturn it with a 2/3 vote, and that just eats up more time. So that's the only reason why he has that power is to just be a roadblock for down the road. Like, but like in very small cases though, but it just feels like in the last 10 years now, that veto is like just shooting that shit out, you know? And then like just also like creating these executive orders, what they shouldn't be doing.
Well, the executive orders, they're supposed to be in the national interest, right? Like national security interests or for the good of the nation.
If they're a thing, like you can't just say red has to be the color red. You know what I mean? Like you can't like a lot of the things that Biden was doing was just like things that are already that don't really matter, but just to prove that, hey, I'm overturning shit. I'm reset. Like everyone should wear masks in federal buildings, and I'm like, well, I mean, as of now, that's already a thing.
So, right, and
for 100 days.
Well, and the thing that people complain about when they complain about those executive orders, you can go to court. You know, you can take it to court. You could say, well, this executive order violates the Constitution. Yeah. His executive orders, they really don't have a whole lot of force of law behind them, except in cases of enforcement.
Yeah, there were more like there were key points that sound. It was a publicity stunt. It sounds good, but it's not like Trump did it too. When he banned certain countries, right? Because they had terrorists in them. But those terrorists are really going to just shirk over to another state and then go. He was just showing that his side, hey, look, I'm trying to get rid of these terrorists. Even though so it was just blustering. And then so what did Biden do? Hey, yeah, that ban's up. We're not banning those countries anymore. Which, like, I mean, there's a reason we banned them, but there's a reason you don't need to ban them. So you're just blustering, you know? Like, so fuck ever, you know? So like a lot of the things that he did was just like the executive order. What I'm getting at, the point I'm trying to get at is that the executive order is supposed to be something, not a nothing, not a publicity stunt. You know what I mean? Like in both sides, you know, you can go back further than that, but it shouldn't be a thing where you're just say something and it's not really a thing.
In Biden's defense, a lot of his executive orders were just to undo prior executive orders.
I know, so as a publicity stunt, because you're undoing a publicity stunt.
Or it was in reaction to COVID-19. And I'm surprised the Republicans are shitting all over him for the vaccine. And it's not like, you do realize he's only been president for about a month, right?
Yeah, like I know.
Exactly a month.
But they have to, though. That's the thing. They have to
because that's what their base wants. That's what their base wants.
Exactly. And that's dumb, right? It's stupid. That's why we're never going to
because it pushes the other side away. It pushes people on you know, when people on the right do shit, it pushes people on the left further away. And then then they say shit and it pushes these people further away too.
You know what we should do is come up with like a science committee, and they're the end all be all, right? Not like a Fauci, but a group. Because when you have a Fauci, he's a man. He's fallible. He could be hurt. He could be persecuted, all that shit. Right. But if you have a group of people, it's kind of hard to like for instance, Walmart goes and kills like millions of people and shit like that in some other country. You ain't mad at Walmart. It's not like you're going to boycott Walmart. You're still going to Walmart. You can do whatever the fuck they want. If you have a science group, right, in a committee, and they say, hey, you got to wear masks. Like I get you like the CDC, but maybe for all intents purposes, this is the written word, right? Like a better CDC plus, and they say something because I'm a medical assistant. We have to guide off of the CDC, so maybe the president should guide off of something else other than Fauci, because he gets more triggered with tweets.
Yeah, he triggers.
I mean, like that's stupid. It should be a committee. A committee.
Unfortunately, this started with the last administration because Trump wanted to have, you know, his mouthpiece out there, and so he kind of designed. He it was already in existence before, right? But
it happened under Trump's watch.
Yeah, but
Fauci didn't exist before Trump.
I agree with you. A committee, it's harder to argue against a committee of professionals than it is against a singular person. I mean,
because if you say the words like 1 million scientists, so climate control is climate change is real. We need green power because this the committee of 1 million scientists said this. So like remember in Civil War when that the hardest argument ever was when War Machine goes, I forgot his fucking name.
Rhodes.
War Machine. Rhodes, yeah. He goes, you're talking about a million like politicians or something like world leaders.
Oh yeah, he cites the number of countries.
Yeah,
that signed on to this thing.
Yeah, he goes, that ain't nothing, because that's not just it's not just a country, it's the leader of the country. So that the top of the top of the top, and
elected by at least half of the people in that country usually.
Exactly, right? And then and they all agreed that this shit is the thing. And I'm thinking if you have a million scientists, so here you are, Joe, I eat Cheetos in my basement, motherfucking white trash, and you're typing and shit and shitting on people and saying climate change is real. You could say Fauci doesn't know what the fuck he's saying, or you could say 1 million scientists. The fuck do they know?
Yeah, you know more than 1 million scientists, buddy? I don't think so.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's kind of a fucking weird thing, right? Hey, Steve, did you hear what this million scientists said?
What did they say? Because I'm gonna believe them over whatever the fuck you're gonna say. I haven't even heard it yet.
Yeah, because if you say Fauci said that, it makes sense to be shitting on Fauci or Bob or Steve, the one person. But if I say the sentence, you don't like Black Lives Matter? Well, fucking 1 million scientists said that. That's a legit thing. I'm not. You can't use those. That's not a thing. You can't scientists. But you know what I mean.
The National Council of Equity and
something,
Culture,
anything.
Something like
but
that.
you say 1 million fucking people that are experts in that field. 1 million is a lot of people. So if they all agree unanimously this climate change is a thing, then I mean, it's hard for Ted Cruz to be like climate change is fake. I know that the million scientists said it just falls apart as soon as you say it. Climate change is fake. 1 million scientists, fuck them. I listen to these 10,000 scientists that support my argument.
I would agree, because Fauci's been in the shit for a long time, right? He's been
of course. He's an expert.
But I didn't know who the fuck he was before COVID-19.
Exactly.
And I think it probably should have stayed that way. So that those types of statements and stuff are qualified by not just one person, but you're right. That's a really good point, man. It's a really good point.
Because it's a fucking hard sell to be like 1 million scientists said this, and then they go, well, University of Oxford said this. How many scientists were there? 10?
Well, there's this other thing too. I mean, because they're talking to Fauci about, hey, when do you think we'll go back to normal? He's not a fucking prognosticator. He knows his little field, right?
Yeah.
He's not in charge of the vaccine rollout or distribution or any of the logistics shit. He's just kind of there to be like, hey, this is how this fucking thing spreads. This is the best way to protect ourselves. You have the information, you create the policy. But now they keep asking him these questions, like if he knows what's going to happen. And that's where you get differences between what he's saying and what the administration's trying to say. You're already seeing it now because he's saying, hey, we'll probably be wearing masks until 2022. And, the administration is trying to say we should have a vaccine for everybody who wants one by the end of July. By the end of July, if you want a vaccine, you should be able to walk in and get one.
And then you have the CDC saying for us to have no masks, we need 80% of the population to be vaccinated.
Which might happen by the end of April.
Yeah, so you have a lot of data points, and they have to coalesce into one person, or could it be because it's not like he's going to keep track of everything, right? And if you ever talk to 3 different doctors, I'm not going to toot my own horn, but I mean they don't fucking agree exactly. Basically, they agree. Basically, antibiotics kill bacterial infections. Now you get them in the room and say which one gets this infection. They will have 3 different answers. That's just 3 doctors. I can't imagine a bunch. So I just say that if you had 1 million scientists getting together and they all form one opinion.
Because that they already talked about it, argued about it, and then came around the best answer that they could come up with. It wasn't just one person making a decision. It has the weight of a committee having gotten together and spent the time that you don't fucking have to talk about this shit or think about this shit. You know, a million fucking scientists already went and talked about it for you. And they said, you know,
Exactly.
this is probably
Exactly.
the best.
But that's what the government's
that's why we
for.
have professionals.
And that's why we have a government. Because we don't have the time to keep track of Zimbabwe, the Sunnis, the fucking Iraqi war, Korea, you know, like all this shit. We don't have time. So we just look to our government. And now they're looking like fools. So I mean, maybe the government should just create a fucking faction of people that can't just talk for themselves. They only can talk in that group and say, this is it. This is the ABCs of climate control. Yeah, we should go Green Deal. So when you have a Republican, right? He becomes president. I'm Republican. You know, I understand that the million scientists said what the fuck they said, but, you know, I looked at Oxford and those 10 guys over there did a study and blah, blah. You're like, so 1 million scientists said one thing and a bunch of people in Oxford said another, and we're just going to, did they have a million scientists? They all had doctorates, all of them? Every single fucking one of them? No, 1 million motherfuckers just came together at the highest of, and they came up and they said, wear 2 masks or wear 1 mask or no mask at all, whatever the fuck.
Yeah, because not one person designed, you know, the mission to the moon. That was a whole bunch of people talking shit out. And
I know, right? Name the hero.
even the top fucking rocket scientist in the world got overridden by some other guy that just had a slightly different idea. And by having those conversations, you know, von Braun was like, yeah, you're right. Free return trajectory is better than direct return. Okay, you know, let's do it your way. But he had to have the humility to go ahead and look and read and listen to this guy, hear him out, and then decide at the end, you're right.
Because it's a person's life or people, right? And then, like,
depending on it.
You're talking about a world. I mean, it just is, you know, I mean, a million is just a number, right? But I mean, it's a big number.
No, but you're right. You know, the weight of a committee or a group of people coming together to talk about something is more persuasive and less polarizing than when one person comes out to give you bad news. You know, because you're right. With the one person, you can say, well, that's just the one guy saying that shit. And he's the darling of the left. And they're fucking, you know, Brad Pitt fucking played him and he's as left as they come. So, you know, fuck that guy. I'm listening to my other peeps over here. But if it's a group of people without pride, you know, they're none of them are trying to get out there or make a name for themselves. And I'm not saying that Fauci is trying to do this, but one could argue that when it's a group of people that are in it to make the best recommendation possible, and there's no ego in there, it's easier to swallow.
But like if you just had, okay, so for instance, like if you force them into a stance where they can't like do any, okay, so for instance, Apple, right? Apple does hellacious things. I mean, they get probably slaves to mine that cobalt ore to create those batteries for fucking cell phones. Like they have slaves in China, things like that. But like, what gives the best product? Apple, right? I mean, that's the way it is. No matter whatever Apple does, and all these other people, these other entities, they're out of control. It doesn't matter. They created that product. So what's our product that we want? We want fucking green energy. We want people to acknowledge climate control. We want people to understand virus. Right? Whatever the fuck, if like 10 of those scientists are doing bad shit here and 20 of them, we know the brand. We know the brand, 1 million scientists. And when they say something, you just go with it. When Apple says, I want you to buy this fucking thing, you don't question it because you know the brand, you know what you're getting, and you're going to buy it.
What needs to happen, they need a Jedi mind trick, all this shit. They need to keep it quiet. The way everything's always been kind of kept quiet, and we've slowly moved in that direction, mainly because it works. You know, something works. We're keeping it quiet that we're doing this or we're doing that, and eventually it's like, hey, when did this come? Oh, I'm so glad that we're doing things this way, because it actually worked out for the better, and we trusted the politicians to do it. But it's when people get radicalized or they want to build a bigger base of support or something, and they take this thing and they put it way out there, And the Green New Deal is one of those things that I think we could have moved towards really naturally without having to make a big deal about it. Just because it is better.
It is a thing in which here you are trying to argue against it, but if you have a million scientists, it just sounds stupid to argue against it, right? Doesn't it? Like when you say arguing against Fauci, I mean, it makes sense, right? Because everybody's argued with one person and proved them wrong. So it's not hard to, reason like, hey, Fauci's wrong. But if you have a million scientists, try to fucking be wrong there. Try to say Apple's a bad product. All of us could talk shit and everything like that. But truth be told, what's the next phone you're buying? It's the next Apple. You know what I mean? Like when Apple announces they're going to get something, or Tesla, they say, hey, we're gonna do this. Boom.
Texas is either gonna get rid of all their windmills or they're gonna weatherize their windmills.
Yeah.
Just like other states do. The problem is since they're privatized and it's a private company and they want to make their shit as cheap as possible and make the most as possible, they didn't weatherize their windmills and they fucking froze. So those companies, I don't think they're gonna get rid of all their windmills and convert to natural gas or any other kind of fire based utility. They're gonna weatherize their windmills so that they don't end up in this position where.
I mean that's just cheaper than actually getting rid of them.
Yes. So, and I think the next time that there's a chill like this, we're gonna see the wind farms fail less. Per capita, they failed less. Actually, they performed better than fossil burning utilities. But nobody's seeing that right now. They're saying, hey, you know what? The little bit of windmills that failed, fuck the whole grid up, which is kind of true. It is kind of true. But you could also argue that the few coal firing places that failed also caused it was everybody fucked up. Everybody fucked up. But I think they're all going to make improvements, and I think they're going to keep moving towards green energy just because wind is always going to cost the same. Wind is not going to become scarce. It's not a commodity that's going to fluctuate with the market. There's always going to be wind. There's always going to be sunshine. That's just where the smart money is going to go.
Well, I'll tell you this. Tesla, he came up, or Tesla. Elon Musk, he came up with a great idea. So America works off of capitalism. So if you given that wheelhouse, this is how you make it succeed. You tax the carbon tax. So anything that takes carbon, that uses carbon and everything like that, you tax it. So yes, you can make your thing that you want to make that hurts the earth, but it costs you more. So naturally, R&D is going to be like, hey, we kind of fucking need something cheaper, So naturally, companies, many thousands of companies are going to work towards that end. Even if they're paying a tax.
You're attacking my way of life. You're going to make it harder for me as a coal miner to do my job because you're attacking the economic system in which my livelihood exists.
I hear you. That's the argument.
And that's the problem. That's the problem. Yeah. That argument comes out.
The walled city.
Well, it needs to be, we're going to take those jobs and that skilled labor and we're going to teach you guys how to do this other thing. And it's hard. I know that there's some people that
what though?
Way too far along in those jobs. What I really think is they should stop building those, stop training new coal miners because we're not going to need them. I think anybody that goes into to study coal mining, they should really be encouraged not to do that. That's like getting an English degree. What the fuck are you going to do with that?
There's no such thing as studying coal mining. That's that's not a thing.
So what they need to do is they need to go into those towns where I'm a teenager, my dad was a coal miner, my grandfather was a coal miner, so I'm going to be a coal miner. They need to go into those towns and be like, hey, you know what? Coal mining's not going to be a thing.
I think
just the way it is. There's only so many dead animals and plants buried in the ground from 200 million years ago. And it's just going to get harder to find and there's going to be less of it. So we're going to put up institutes and colleges and give you guys grants to go ahead and study this next thing. We're going to make that school fucking free for you to go and learn how to build solar panels.
Like I said, what happens is you create these walled cities, like these arguments, like you're attacking their livelihood, and vice versa. You're attacking the world.
No, because we're not banning that industry. That industry gets to keep going. But guess what? Those people, they're going to retire, and eventually that industry is going to go away.
But you once again, you're avoiding the main thing though, because they don't give a shit that there's a way out. There's always a way out. But the people arguing these topics aren't trying to find a way out. They just want to talk about the thing and turn it into a thing. Hey, you're trying to get rid of my job. Even if you say there's a path for you, I don't want that fucking path. I want this. And so we would never really get anywhere. And the vice versa. You're like, hey, we're talking about saving the fucking world. Okay. We're not going to have oil forever, coal forever. And so you got this walled city, and there's no way to meet in the middle. And you're right. You could say there's a path, and you could say, hey, we're not trying to destroy the world, because those people minding the cult aren't really trying to destroy the world.
The people that say, well, you're trying to attack my way of life, you would tell them, no, you get to be a coal miner. You're going to get to retire. You're still going to get your pension. You're still going to get all that stuff, because we're not closing down your business. That's not what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is futurize your sector of energy production, and so if you set that person's mind at ease that they're going to be okay, you're still going to have a job, you're still going to get to keep doing what you're doing, but in the future, the new people that come in, we want to make sure that they don't end up in a position, where after you retire and you're gone, guess what, there's no more fucking dead animals and plants on the ground anymore.
I think the problem there is underestimating the power is stupid. I mean, sometimes you just get dug in. People are selfish. People are selfish.
That's it. You need to let them know that they're going to be okay. That individually they're going to be okay. And that's why you can get everybody to agree with Trump. Oh, let's do another $2,000 stimulus check. I'm like, I can use another $2,000. Fucking, I got credit cards and shit that I could pay for.
I don't think people voting for Trump is like thinking they would have voted for him anyways. I don't think 2000.
Yeah, no. But what I'm saying is like that was the spot where I agreed with him. Like, hey, let's do another $2,000 stimulus. I'm not gonna oppose that. I don't need it, but it'd be nice to have.
I don't really feel like
it's one of those things where you're appealing to people individually, directly.
I don't think that's a thing.
What it's because people just want to know that they're not being attacked, and that they're being valued, and that their future is going to be secured as well. It's when you put into doubt their future, their safety, their security, their comfort. That's when people become radicalized, and they go back and they recoil. So it's the messaging. The same thing with defund the police. So it's what we're going to like lay off police officers? No. Police, we're going to keep the same cops that we have. We just kind of want to set up a system to where we don't have to keep hiring more and more officers to put into the system. We want to start shifting away from that.
But nobody wants to hear that, though. That's the
nobody
thing.
Wants to hear that. No. Well, the problem is everybody already heard defund the police, and they decided what they think that means.
I know.
And now it's fucked, right? Now you can't even have that discussion. But again, a discussion is what needs to happen.
I agree. I think that will never happen. The world is doomed.
Well, if it's what happens, then it's what happens. Same fucking thing in Texas, right? A lot of people have been saying this privatization of energy is not going to work. You guys being on your own grid is not going to work. You guys get hit with something, it's going to fuck you all up. And it happened. So hopefully people don't get radical. You're already starting to see it though. Politicians are already pointing, oh, Green New Deal. Oh, privatization and this and that. Really, I think privatization could also be the solution, because those companies, they want their customers back, so they're gonna put shit in place to make sure that doesn't happen again. Just like, if you get an iPhone that blows up, they're gonna make their next iPhone not so explodey, right? less
happened
failures.
Which happened. Yeah.
That happened, and then they Samsung I think had the same thing.
Yeah, you don't hear about it anymore. Yeah, you don't hear it
because they fixed it on the fly. So I think private sectors can fix this. It's just unfortunate that something like this had to happen. And I don't know, did gas
are energy companies private sector though?
Not all gas. Well, they're regulated. So
no, but there's
a lot
right
of
now,
deregulation in Texas.
They're not privatized though. That utility is a utility. That's a problem. Like if you don't let.
So the utilities there's a lot more utility providers in Texas than there are anywhere else.
You have no
like a
choice.
lot of people to pick from. Here, I only have SDG&E. I can only pick from SDG&E. That's it. But
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but SDG&E.
No, I mean
SDG&E is regulated to make sure that since they're the only game in town, they're not taking advantage of us. Right now in Texas, they're allowing people, an open marketplace to advertise and pick and choose. And the funny thing is, a lot of people are demonizing Gritty, right? Gritty's the provider that their price fluctuates based on the wholesale price of power. So if there's high demand, the price goes up. If there's low demand, the price goes down. They supposedly put out in advance of this winter storm, they were telling their customers, hey, you guys might want to think about going to another provider, because if shit goes down and our prices go up, you're going to get ringed. And some people jumped, some people didn't. And guess what? Now some people are stuck paying, I think 200 times their normal price.
Yeah, I saw that.
And so that really shouldn't have happened anyways. Even if they had a service provider, there really should have been a cap, right? And I think the energy sector is reporting some of the biggest gains of their existence. So it's a windfall for them, but that's kind of how it was set up. And people trusted other people to know what they were doing, right? And politicians said, hey, this is awesome. Look at, the open market is keeping prices down and it's working for Texas and it's that, blah, blah, blah. And now this should happen. And those same politicians, the exact same politicians, are saying, we need to figure out how this happened and why, why people are getting, why the energy sector failed, and why people are having to pay these exorbitant prices for, warming themselves. They had to choose between dying and a $16,000 electricity bill. So how do we get into this position? Well, they're trying to have both sides, and it's really, people need to realize these politicians that they trusted, they probably shouldn't have trusted them, and vote somebody else in. Who knows if that's going to happen or not?
Because that was a very well placed breakdown of what went down with the. So what happened was, for people who don't know, is like Texas, there's an ice storm that's never happened in the last like 130 years, and they lost power, and people died, and you just broke it down pretty good. Hey, let's move on to the next topic. I want to bring this shit up. So, I was looking at the Fantastic Four. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Whatever. Anyways, so like they're coming out with the new Fantastic Four, and I was thinking, what perfect time to make the Fantastic Four again, rebooting it again, for the third time, or maybe fourth time if you ever watched that old 60s Fantastic Four movie. But
the Roger Corman one from the 90s.
Yeah, I saw an opportunity here though, because everything has to be woke, right? Disney owns them. And I was thinking, why not make a thing in which the powers that they have and the thing and what they are could be something like that could be representative of our new woke culture, right? So I was thinking, right? So like you got Mr. Fantastic, right? And he stretches and shit, and he could conform to whatever kind of thing that he needs to be. He could be a cup if you wanted to, right there. I was thinking if you could make Mr. Fantastic a transgender person, so he could be gender fluid, right? Because he's made of rubber, right? That'd be great. And then I was thinking Sue Storm should be, because she could turn invisible, should be some kind of like their powers are connected to their psyche. So like also, mutations, because Galactus and his, power cosmic or whatever the fuck, right? So Sue Storm should be like a huge lady, like morbidly obese, so she could turn invisible to like, hide herself, or and that'd be her like her thing that she could do, because she's very, very ashamed. But now because she has powers, she's more powerful, yeah, girl. Now let me keep going. So the Thing. Yes, what kind of woke thing can we have for the Thing, right? he's gay. Now, what makes this beautiful is that, all right, so I was thinking like we write it in a way where, he's a closeted, homosexual, right? And so he comes out, right? So now he's finally, free, right? And he becomes the Thing, where he's a like a rock guy, right? Now, the irony is he just finally came out, right? Trying to be free with himself. He can't do the things he wanted to do because he totally wrecked a guy, because he's, rocks. I mean, that's why he can never have a normal relationship, because he's made of fucking rocks. All right? And then you think, what can we do with Johnny Storm? He's on fire. What the fuck can he do? And I was thinking, I don't know. For some reason, I was gonna say Muslim, but I couldn't fucking figure out how to. Oh no, yeah, the Thing was Muslim. That's it. And he was Muslim and he was gay, so that kind of made it a thing where his
and
family
Johnny Storm was flaming.
No, but like the Thing was like, he's Muslim and he's gay, so it kind of had that like that conflict, because Muslims aren't down for gay people, so you would have that like thing working itself. And if you're against him, you're Islamophobic, and if you're against him, you're against gay. So it's kind of a weird thing. So like, but you know what though? I think I got stuck with Johnny Storm though. I couldn't think of it, what kind of woke thing he could be.
So that the problem with that, right? It's the same problem.
Disabled. That's what I was gonna say. All right, go ahead. Go.
The problem with that is, so one of the critiques of Rian Johnson's take on Star Wars was taking a bunch of classic characters and totally changing them.
Of course.
Right? And not giving really what the fans wanted, was to see badass Luke Skywalker, cool ass Han Solo, and leader Leia, right? So taking classic characters, and trying to lens them through our progressive views is not going to work, because it's going to feel like this view or this progressiveness is being kind of forced on something that people grew up with. What needs to happen is they need to create new characters. And we were down. I was down with Rey. I was down with Finn. I was down with Poe, because there were new characters. You could do whatever the fuck you wanted with them. If they had made Finn and Poe gay and it made sense, okay, fuck it, fine, they're gay. But they're new characters, and we're learning about them, and then we get to choose whether or not we want to be on that ride. So I think they should try to avoid that kind of stuff, right?
No, but you're missing the point. See, the thing is, you gotta let this whole woke movement progress.
Yeah.
If you don't,
new characters.
No,
you create new characters because
no, that's the right way of doing things.
But see, the way you're doing it, and I don't know if you're being facetious about it, but
that's not.
The way your Fantastic Four approach feels more like checking the boxes of inclusion, right? And applying that to a classic family that maybe Republicans grew up with, and they're gonna be like, I don't want this shit in my fucking Fantastic Four, and so they're gonna turn that down. And
I think if you make the movie self-aware of itself, it could be fun. Okay, so like for instance, you have the Ghostbusters movie with the females, right? And it was like basically the reason why it didn't work, and I theorize, is it wasn't self-aware of itself. It wasn't self-aware. Some movies, if it's fucking not truthful, not genuine, but it's self-aware of itself, can work. Like I'm trying to think, like The Naked Gun.
If it understands that it's a parody, or that it's that it's not serious.
But at the same time, as long as you're pushing out a message, it can land. And I say that the reason why this Fantastic Four would work is because in the previous iterations, you were just trying to like create a story, and you just didn't know what you're doing. You had these 4 fucking characters. You really didn't know how to push it out, because it was not a good comic book to begin with, because the comic book is basically, hey, let's have the 4 elements and create it into a comic book. And at the time there was nothing there. You need more story writing nowadays. But now in this time frame, It needs to be woke. And what's a better message to show how this kind of woke thing is a bit too far, rather than just put them all at once and see? It would be almost a parody, but as long as it's self-aware of itself, it'd be great, because it'd be like they would always look at the camera and say something very super PC,
but I don't think
it would land.
I don't think something like that fits within the Marvel universe, though, because the Marvel universe, I can't really think of any times that it's self-aware in the way that you're talking.
Well, Guardians of the Galaxy is pretty self-aware. If you watch that movie, they're really calling out things.
They're self-aware that they're a group that nobody knows.
Yeah.
That now everybody knows. And also they were able to do things with that group since nobody really knew them. They could kind of do their thing, turn Star-Lord into a demigod, and change Rocket Raccoon a little bit or whatever, right? But that's an example where you take an obscure group and you could do what you want with that group.
See, the reason why Captain
Marvel, they should
Marvel
probably do the same thing. I would want to do that maybe with like the Inhumans. What you're saying, I would want to do that with something like the Inhumans.
Now, I think Fantastic Four would land just right, because it's just enough. It's a property that's just enough to be known, but just enough to fuck with. Because like Captain Marvel came out, if you watch that movie, it's in your face and it's about crushing men. And
it was not well received.
Yeah, I know, but because it wasn't self-aware, it didn't land. Now, if it was like a parody of itself,
it was self-aware, because they were really hardcore.
They were serious.
They were really hardcore about a female hero.
I agree.
Standing up against male oppression.
I agree.
And it was their black and white.
I know. But it wasn't self-aware. Self-aware means it knows that it's overdoing it. It has to.
Yeah, but they wouldn't do that with a serious topic. Guardians was self-aware in a way to make it funny.
And that's where it should.
Yeah, but that's like self-deprecating humor.
I know.
That's like Guardians works, but Captain Marvel didn't.
But as long as I think that if you have the 4 themes put together, and I mean, like, you've got a group of people, earth, fire, wind, water, right? And they're just like, what are they other than their powers? They're really like Fantastic Four. Think about it. Really think about it. Like, what are they other than their powers?
There's too many people that have really strong feelings about the Fantastic Four. I think you should just take an obscure franchise, something newer, and that people aren't as attached to, and go ahead or create brand new characters.
See, that's the problem. That's not a thing that needs to be done. What needs to be done now, like you're missing the entirety of the point. See, if you just created more characters that were new, and then it wouldn't land, because it's just what is this? What is this mess of 4 characters that are very progressive and they're just come together? What I'm saying is, when you use the Fantastic Four, and they've already tried, it didn't land, because once again, they were just too serious. They made Michael B. Jordan be Johnny Storm, who was traditionally white. Now, what didn't land was, 1, it was a terrible movie to begin with, and 2, it took itself too seriously. Now, if you could just like highlight this woke structure and just really just put them together and rise or fall, people could just see how silliness this whole thing is. Like this whole, let's be ultra progressive, right? This is such a good idea, right? And then just watch it just fail miserably, or succeed and say, oh shit, this can work. If it's well written, it can work. See, this is a win-win, because like, okay, for instance, I got the idea when I watched a bunch of transgender people, pro-transgender people talk about the UFC and how they should be in the UFC. And then I was thinking about our old argument back then. I was like, yeah, we should just let this shit go down, because it was a mess, right? Because so if you fast forward the thought, right, you got a guy who transitions to a woman and she beats the living shit, because she will beat the living shit out of all the women there, and then just keep doing that, and then just keep more people who are on that side would tend to go more into fighting, because they know they could just like destroy all these people. And then it become a thing in which you would have transgender people fighting each other, and now it's back to men fighting. And then like, okay, and then you go back to women, girls growing up, they won't have any heroes anymore because it'll be just transgender people fighting. So they're like, well, fuck, I wasn't born a man to transition to a woman. I was just born a woman. So why even bother with sports? And then it just move on and it break itself apart. Right. See, when you put too many woke things into a movie, it just breaks itself apart. It's just like, what the fuck are we doing? However, in the media, in the movies, they just keep pushing it in like unnecessarily. And it just doesn't fucking work. And why not grab everything together in the perfect way? If it's not Captain Planet, I think Fantastic Four Planet would better.
Be a good one. Captain Planet would be a good one.
Yeah, or like I said, because you're stuck on Marvel, but I think if it was a separate entity, it'd work. Because like if you have Johnny Storm as a fucking Down syndrome person or someone who's was it paraplegic, I think that would really work. Like he's in a wheelchair fucking flying and on flames and shit. I think that would really work because like everyone would be watching it and thinking like, what the fuck is this? And they're like, well, then you're obviously, and then the counter would be obviously you're anti-paraplegic or anti-Muslim or anti-gay or anti-morbidly obese people or anti what I say plastic transgender people. I mean like that's every argument ever made. It would be the cornerstone of our society because now we've figured it out. You've made utter garbage. And yet you're calling me a racist. You're calling me this. And then guess who the villain would be? Dr. Doom, right? It's always Dr. Doom. Guess what he is?
Republican.
White male.
Oh, fuck.
Rich. Doesn't have armor. For some reason, every time you hit him, he's just like made of steel. But he's just white. He doesn't look like Dr. Doom at all. He's just white man. And he's Republican values, anti-abortion, things like that. And he would push in your face or the Fantastic Four's face like you're you want to kill babies. I'm trying to save them here. That's why I have to say it. That's why.
Terrible idea, Kevin.
Yeah. No, is it now? Like, yeah, I know you want to just hammer it, but here you have this ultra progressive movie and it just doesn't work. No matter how well you write it. And then you can then say, because I've seen this done before, hey, you're racist. Hey, you're anti-fat people or you're anti-progress, any of those fucking things. And then you could just sit there and be like, well, no, I'm not saying that at all. This is garbage because this, and that. It's too much. And then you can then come back to, yeah, that Star Trek does suck. This Picard show is terrible. Or you could say this whatever, the New Mutants is garbage. Anything progressive, you can then now say it's garbage because you've made the ultimate movie of progressive. Yes, yeah, and these movies that they just keep like Ghostbusters, right? You couldn't say that movie sucked. Why is that? Why can't we say that movie sucks?
Because everybody said, "Oh, you're anti-female," or so you got a problem with
the new Terminator, which you should watch. What the fuck could you not say about it?
Oh, you don't like it because it's a female Terminator and a female protagonist protecting a female character.
You misogynistic piece of shit. You're fucking afraid of women being powerful. You piece of fucking shit. I hope you burn in hell. Stupid shit like that was said about these garbage movies. And like, because the society that we live in hasn't figured it out. So I think that if you made a fucking ultra progressive movie at this level that, although would tank, right? You could then say, maybe we not use this argument of Star Wars 8 sucks. No, you piece of shit. You just afraid of women? You're afraid of black people? You're afraid of this, that, anything.
And what? Marvel's already, they're already kind of doing that with WandaVision.
Right? How? Because who's the main villain right now? Okay, we need to talk about that. But before Agatha, who was the main villain at the time?
So there was...
Who was the main villain at the time before Agatha?
Protagonist-antagonist relationship was Wanda and the director of S.W.O.R.D.
The white man.
Wait. he was the protagonist. She was the antagonist.
No. But
And
you're watching our heroes talk.
A sympathetic antagonist. So Wanda is a three-dimensional character in WandaVision.
I know that.
She's a sympathetic villain.
I get
it. What she's doing is wrong.
I get it.
But I know you get it. I know you get it. But then you're right. You know, the antagonist right now or mid-season ended up being the white guy. Now the antagonist looks like it's, you know, this other female character.
Yeah, of course,
right?
Of course. Which I think is awesome. And
but what I like is that everybody's layered, because you really could argue the director's point of view. Like,
no, you couldn't have.
You know, huh?
No, you couldn't have. Because the way they post it. And like you're right if it was well written. But that's not what they did. He didn't want to listen to anybody. He just wanted to say, I am the man, and this is the way it is. Because he didn't have a conversation. They didn't talk it out. He didn't say.
But there's real people like that in history that have been like, you know what? I'm going to take the lead on this, and I'm going to make this decision. I'm going to make this call that nobody else can make.
But when you're making a show to have. You're trying to get the generalized point, right? And you're trying to do it in a way where, oh yeah, I get it, without having to go back into the past. And I agree with you. There are people in the past that are like that.
They did need to flesh him out more.
Exactly.
Wanda's easier to follow because you saw her, one, make the decision to kill Vision, and then two, watch him get that fucking thing ripped out of his forehead. And then, three, come back and then realize that, you know, Sword kidnapped your dude and has been experimenting on him for the past 5 years.
Which was fucking tight.
Dude. And they haven't really said that yet, but you can kind of figure it out by now.
Oh yeah, dude.
When she breaks in, when she breaks in to get Vision, he's in pieces. You know, he's not all one piece like Thanos left him, you know, with the hole in his head. He's scattered. And so she goes like, what the fuck? You know, and so that's where the sympathy comes in. But then again, that's where you have a strong female protagonist, antagonist that is multiform, that you're on this ride with her. You're like, how would I have reacted in that position if I had the power that she had?
I agree. But what did they do with the white guy? They made him one-dimensional.
Well, but he's also a new character, you know.
But they also made him one-dimensional.
Not really, because he thinks he's doing the right thing.
No, that's you making that call. But he really is, even not listening to the Melinda Rambeau. She's like, hey, look, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't want to hear it. Just wants to fucking end it. And I have to say that poses him as a one-dimensional character. Because but you know, it made her three-dimensional.
In this case, I'm okay, because, you know, otherwise you could have made him a purple-haired General Holdo, you know, and everybody would have been calling attention to that too. I think no matter who you put in that role of antagonist,
I have a theory.
No matter what,
if you would have made that a female, it would have been an easier right than saying.
But then it's just all females fighting about everything, and Vision's just kind of like they're like just there. Right?
I know. They just so happened to stick the one guy there. The most alpha dude, they made him the bad guy and one-dimensional. The other guy who's there, beta male, he's just there. And he's there as comic relief. So what are our strong male characters? Other than Vision, though, and that's a good thing. But I think that if they would have made that other guy fucking just a female, I think that would have answered my plea.
See, but again, this is where, like I said, they're doing these progressive things.
Yeah, I know they are.
And I don't think it's at too much of a cost of the males, right? You're right. Vision's kind of
weak.
Vision is actually us on the ride, you know, because now he's in the middle between like, I love this person, but this person is doing wrong things. What do I do? We've seen Wanda before. We care about her character, but we understand that she's doing something wrong. It's very Breaking Bad. You know, we don't want anything bad to happen to this character. We want this character in the end to be good, but is what they're doing redeemable? You know,
yeah,
the damage that they're doing to these people, is it redeemable? And that's where I really don't like this Agatha whatever reveal curveball bullshit. I wanted it to be Wanda dealing with this shit on her own and really her be the driving force behind it. I wasn't feeling
my main point is this. I'm seeing a trend where if you're the hero as a dude, you got to be weak as fuck and beta. And then like if you're a fucking alpha dude, you got to be the fucking villain. You just can't be, Captain America anymore. You can't be Iron Man. You got to be.
Yeah, but in this show, I think they did it.
Or whatever.
They did it. I think they did it better in this show than let's say The Last Jedi, where it was just super obvious where the females were being put out at the front at the expense, in your face expense of the male characters.
Name this strong male character. There is none. There's just the alpha guy. And the Vision, although is powerful, he is beta. Though he's like letting the whims of everyone else just take. I'm not against it. It's good.
Wanda
I like the show.
Kind of gave him free will,
I know, and this is the way he chooses to do things. Just get caught up in modern family, stuck monologuing.
Well, he's kind of like Neo at first, right? He's accepting this reality around him, and then once it starts to become questioned, he's like, okay, is this correct? Do I really want to know what's out there? And once he decides, this is wrong, and that the goodness within him, the best parts that Hulk was talking about, the best parts that are still in there, won out, and he makes the decision on his own. He's not subservient. He's making his decision, and so he's empowered. He gets to make his decision and make his move. And it'd be interesting what happens in this last episode that we got coming.
So, okay, let's bring it back to Agatha, right?
Yeah. Harkness.
So here's the thing that's crazy, right? Agatha, if you know her, she's an actual sorcerer supreme kind of thing.
Right.
She's got real magic. She was like one of the.
Yeah, I don't know too much about her character, but I know she's a magic character.
So in Salem witch trials, she's one of the first witches that die, right? Okay. That's the thing. And so you're like, what the fuck? That's so fucking stupid magic, right? But what in the Marvel universe is already magical?
Well,
Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
And with that being said, is a thing in which so magic exists, right? And so you got Agatha. It's not like out of left field. It's like within the Marvel universe, there's magic, right? So here you have Agatha, who's like an actual magic user, and you can link it to Doctor Strange, and that's the thing. So there's a precedence for all this shit, right? And so here you got Black Widow, or not Black Widow, Scarlet Witch, right? And this whole time we thought her powers were from this fucking this Mind Stone, right? But it unlocked the power of magic in her. And so we always thought she had telepathy and she could mess with people's minds. We didn't actually think that magic was on the table. We just thought she could just move things with her mind. But with magic, it's this kind of like open box, like this. You can do whatever you want with it, because Doctor Strange obviously does that. He can like reverse time, go into another realm, an alternate reality. He can do all sorts of shit, multiply himself. And then she's only like a fraction of that. But who knows? Like when they opened the door to magic, because of Agatha's existence and Doctor Strange's existence, it would then you could do the writing for Scarlet Witch to say they unlocked magical powers inside of her. Everybody has because everybody obviously has the ability to do magic, right? Doctor Strange, that other guy who could walk all of a sudden. I mean, like in Doctor Strange the movie,
right?
So like, who's to say that the mind gem didn't unlock magic for her? So with that variable door, we could do whatever we want with her. She might be a thing where she says no more mutants or all mutants. That's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like where they're headed is that Agatha was influencing her. I'm not sure why yet. Maybe just to use her as a tool so that she could do what she wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if she's harnessing her power somehow, storing it. I don't know.
Or make more witches.
maybe I don't know. That's why I'm interested to see what happens this next episode. But I really wasn't feeling the end of this last episode. The musical number of it was Agatha all along or something like that. I was
Well, so say it's Agatha. I thought they were building up to House of M. That's what I thought they were building up, right? But maybe not. Maybe they're building up to something else. But god damn, dude, if anything, why would you not build up to that?
yeah, the
And
show's
then
been
like
pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. I've enjoyed the shit out of it. More and more. But this last episode felt like not as far a step forward as the other ones did at the very end.
yeah, and it's fucking crazy that at the end Quicksilver takes out that Rambo lady. Hey, all right.
Oh yeah.
So what do you think about that Rambo lady? What she got going on?
So she's been mutated. She's a mutant.
Okay, well,
I think
so
that's
like, is that a catch-all? She has all these powers then? Because like, what she got going on? Like, she went to throw her out and she stopped it and did her classic superhero pose. Can she fly? I know her eyes can see certain things.
I don't like the superhero poses that they've been doing. I didn't
Always?
like when Vision. I watched it twice. When Vision and Scarlet Witch are floating in the air and they got the one knee up. I didn't like the camera angle, and I didn't like that one knee up. It was too comic booky against everything else. I don't even think they even posed like that in the movies. Or if they did, it was at an angle that didn't look goofy, right? The Monica Rambeau poses, she shouldn't be posing. She should be like falling and shit, because she's not used to any of this.
Yeah, they made it seem like and then like she does the determined face, like
yeah,
and I was just like, what is happening? Like automatically she's a hero.
Yeah, it's too much. I think if she was just like doing shit like out of reflex, like this instead of like this, or like landing, but landing like kind of like how you were trained to land, in the military instead of landing
maybe
like comic book.
Yeah, because they did the classic
fist
down,
so
hand up. I even did it instinctually. I'm not good at mimicking, but she put her hand down and
yeah, no, it should have been more of like a judo land where where you land in a way to spread your energy out so it doesn't hurt
or
you.
something like that.
And then she realizes like, what the fuck,
Yeah, it felt like she knew what she was doing.
Yeah, I'm not down with that. But I do like how they're saying, like her exposure to the hex, changed her.
Yeah, so then
okay
like I would say everybody there is a mutant.
Not if they didn't go. She went through the barrier, and they're saying that's what changed her, and that it was her going through multiple times that.
Well, the end goal is to have mutants in an undesignated amount. Like you can't have like 1 million. You could have 2,000 maybe, and then you could constantly just introduce them throughout whatever the fuck show you have. Yeah,
it could turn into a thing where, okay, now the people aren't under the hex, but guess what? They're not allowed to leave that town anymore because they have powers.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, and then you have your Civil War.
They have another Civil War.
Ooh, that's good. I like that. Hey, all right, one last topic and then we're done.
All right.
It'll be pretty quick because you're a teacher, so this is from your perspective. All right, I'm going to read the headline. Longtime Bronx teacher fired for refusing to make the Black Panther salute. Court filing. So they had, I guess, Black History Month or whatever the fuck, and they were no, it's not even that. It was training, how white people were bad training, and so like they did this thing where everyone had to do the Wakanda salute, like Wakanda forever, and she didn't want to do it, and they fired her. Now, I mean, that's the story, the article. They fired her, and so she's suing because it's like, prejudice or whatever like that. And I thought to myself, I bet there's more because the headline, or not the headline, but the person writing it is not gonna dive deep. And I'm thinking the reason they let her go is because her refusing to do the Wakanda forever symbol is probably more to it. Like they tried to do certain things with her and she just wouldn't do it, because this just feels weird that because they just had, because that's not like That's not like a thing where like, fucking do it. Fucking do this. You know, it had to have been, yeah, just why aren't you doing it, Linda? Or whatever the fuck her name is Espinoza, whatever. Rafaela Espinal, you know, so like she didn't do it. And I'm pretty sure she, you know, she didn't want to do it because she didn't want to do it. She thought it was stupid. But them trying to force her to do it, I don't think that's like the one time. I think that's like one of many other times to try to get her to do things and she just wouldn't do it. But you're a teacher. What do you think?
I mean, based on what you've shared, you know, if it's well, it seems pretty black and white to me. I think she has a case.
Right?
I think she has a case.
But she turned it into like they constantly were telling her you're not black enough because she's part black, and they said she said that they said that to her. Now I was like, I don't think teachers would have said that, or maybe they said it as a joke.
You never know. I mean, I've only worked at one school within one district, and I know that anytime, well, cooler heads tend to prevail, but anytime we have anything sensitive, we usually try to take a lot of things into account. You know, when we're asking people to share something in their classroom, we give them the flexibility to do it or not do it. And if somebody decides that they're not going to do something, then you can interpret it, right? Like, okay, they're not down with this. But to take the action of firing them now is if it's at will employment or a union, they have the right to fire them, but they also got to be ready to, you know, to get sued for a wrongful termination. So
she was 1 year before her retirement and they fired her. I mean, I don't know. I think this story is suspect. My theory is this. She has been starting shit with people nonstop. And then finally, at the very end of it, she's put her foot down and they let her go before she was. I don't even think, I think it'll come. I don't even think they'll investigate it. But I don't even think the story is as it seems. I think it's like she just quit.
Where's most of the information coming from? Is it coming from her or is it coming from the district?
Well, the news article, it's coming from her.
Yeah, so of course she could be leaving stuff out, like, you know, like,
yes!
I said this was fucking stupid. You know, they wanted me to do the Wakanda Forever salute, and I told them, no, this is stupid. I'm not doing it. And if she did it in a way to undermine other people, you know, like I've had teachers like undermine a project that I did in my class to their kids, like say, I don't know why they're doing this project. I could just tell you this instead of, you know, having you do a project about it. I'm like, why would she tell her kids that? Why would she undermine me? It's like you telling Seth, oh, sorry, your kid, you know, hey kid, I don't know why your mom, you know, put this rule in place. I think, you know, she's wrong for doing this. Yeah. Would you undermine, you know, your wife to your child?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, that's not cool, you know? So I don't know. I really don't know how this lady expressed her view. If this was the first thing that she ever did, you know, I doubt a model educator, you know, that did all kinds of good in the community and participated and did all kinds of things will get fired for one thing like that. There could be more to it, but
it makes me think of the Juicy Smollett, you know, Jussie Smollett.
Oh yeah,
when he goes, he's in.
It's hard to say it the non-Chappelle way.
I know.
Juicy Smouillet.
Yeah, when he said that, I was like, huh, that sounds way better than what his real name is. But like when I first heard the story, I remember this one lady, black lady, told me the story, and I go, in Chicago or Detroit, or like it sounded like the blackest state ever, and they attacked a black guy, and I'm like, and they said that they were MAGA. That this sounds like the fakest fucking thing ever. That's like saying a gay guy got attacked in San Francisco, you know, a gay central, you know, and so like so this is the Bronx, a Spanish black lady was fired for not doing Wakanda Forever. I mean, that's just too much. There's too many things going on there. The Bronx, they're not racist there because
that's why I qualified my opinion at the beginning where I said, you know, if this is what it is, you know, based on what you said or what's been reported at face value, if we take them at their word, they just got a case, you know, what the fuck?
Yeah.
no Wakanda forever, so you're fired. That sounds
especially the
far-fetched.
Bronx. I can't see 90% of white people being like superintendent and things like that. Chances are in the Bronx, it's probably like Hispanic, Black, Asian, like just a mix. Like it'd be like less white people, if anything, in those hierarchy of positions. And they went and like when you see the words, like, I'm pretty confident if this comes to light, the company that the teachers that fired her or whoever fired her is probably like a minority themselves, and is like, hey, you can't be doing
there's other things. Is it a public school? Is it a private school?
That's true too.
Were there any arguments before? Any complaints before? Did students ever file complaints? Closer to retirement, so this lady's probably 60, which means that she grew up,
in the Bronx,
in the
any
60s
private
and 70s, and
any private school or public school being like, let's get rid of this lady, this Spanish lady, for not being Black enough. That sounds so stupid.
Yeah, or it could
in 2021.
It could just be stupid leadership too. I mean, Gina Carano makes a really bad analogy, and she gets fired, and now Disney's in a world of shit because of that. So it could be a stupid decision at the top. I think more needs to come out.
I will follow this story though, but I think it'll disappear because it's not. The reason why it's a story is because, oh yeah, you got this race, this group of teachers or school is racist towards this one Black Mexican lady. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I bet money that's not what happened. It's going to grow. She's going to get squashed, but this won't be in the news because it won't be sensational, because it'd be
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah, one minority squashed another minority, big whoop. But if it was a bunch of white people or something like that, maybe. All right, well, I think this is it for Podcastforwe. I got to pee, that's why. So, and we covered all the topics.
Yeah, we got it.
All right. Hey, as always, follow us on Spotify, podcasts, for me, the website, the fucking YouTube. We're on fucking SoundCloud. We're on Apple. Wherever you get podcasts, you find us. And always be the better person than you were yesterday. And I want everybody to get with a group of friends, play some Ghost Recon Breakout, try to kill the Predator, and laugh about, oh God, I'm bleeding. And then, it'd be fucking hilarious.
It was good.
You don't know what I'm talking about? Sucks to be you. All right. Take care. Laters.